Hello, welcome to Talking Devils, Manchester United leading independent podcast. I'm Paul, and this is the United Before Fergie podcast. If you're watching this live on YouTube or on Facebook, please leave a comment, subscribe, like, do all that good stuff. But if you're listening to this later on the repeat, hello, please again leave a comment, subscribe, like. And if you're listening on the audio podcast, do exactly the same for us. 55 years ago tonight, Manchester United won the European Cup by beating Benfica 4-1 after extra time at Wembley. And I'm delighted to welcome my three guests this evening. Firstly, lifelong United fan Addy, who was in the terraces on that fateful night. The son of United legend Nobby Stiles with Rob, and United's European winning, FA Cup winning, First Division League winning goalkeeper and United legend Alex Stepney. Good evening, chaps. How are you?
Good evening, Paul.
Oh, good.
Fantastic. Excellent. So yeah, and cheers to, it's only water, but cheers to you too. So I want to start with you, Alex. 55 years ago tonight, has today been a day of reflection? Do you think about it, or is it just a year since that happened? What kind of goes through your mind when the anniversary ticks around of that?
It's just when the date comes up, when the date comes out, like yesterday. Oh, blooming hell. It's 50. Oh, yeah, it's 55 years now. Today. So great memories. I mean, that's what it's all about. But I will say that being as I still work at the club, I'm doing the hospitality and doing a few things. You never stop getting reminded of it, which is it's your life. It's your life, and it's just an unbelievable thing that's happened during your life. And that's what it's all about, and that's what Rob would probably say that about the same for his dad.
Yeah. I mean, did you think, Alex, that 55 years after it happened, people would still be talking about it and asking you about it to this day?
Well, you don't think that, but it's like everything else. Once we won it, a few years, it's one of those things that you'll never be forgotten. Because Manchester United, the support is absolutely unbelievable all around the world. I mean, that team we played in, I mean, it's like when we won the league, obviously to get into the European Cup. What did Matt and Jimmy do? They took us on a 6 weeks tour, straight after the game in '67, and we went and played 2 games in America, which was basically trying to start it off, exhibition games, and then we went to New Zealand. We went there for a couple of weeks, and then we had another 3 or 4 weeks in Australia, because that's what it's all. And now, looking back now, all the supporters that come from all these places. I mean, I was in the I was there yesterday, and there's people from Australia and New Zealand and America. They're from all over the world. It's just an absolute. But that's what Matt Busby did for Manchester United, as well. Did you feel like? Sorry.
Did you feel like rock stars? Because that was at the height of the Beatles and everything else. Would you kind of?
No, George did. George did.
Oh yes, of course. No, but I mean, what was that like? What was that like though, going on tour with United straight after the final to these places that maybe you never even thought of where you would go to?
No, I mean that's been the beauty of playing for Manchester United and being in the team in the one of the greatest teams of all time, because you travel the world. I never thought, when I was leaving school, that I would, if I went in the Merchant Navy or something, that I would be, going everywhere in the world and being looked after at the same time.
Rob, when you're, obviously you were like younger and your dad after that final, what were his thoughts on, I'm going on tour, I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm off?
He's, I suppose, as he said, a half-blind midget from Collyhurst. It was really. I think, he said when he went to Australia, his mum had warned him there might be relatives there. He said he got off the plane and with all these gingerhead people, and he knew it was his relatives. So, yeah, he knew he was taking the game to the world, really. So yeah, it was amazing for him, really, to see what he did and to see where he went just for playing for United, and the affection they had all over the world and still do is incredible.
Oh, it's such an institution now. Not just, you could probably talk to anybody in any corner of the world and mention the name Manchester United, and they'll know exactly who you are. Straight away. That's how large, just how huge the brand is now, and the name actually is. But I want to talk about that night in 1968. Addy, you were there on the terraces.
I was very lucky to be there. Yeah.
On the so let's go back just a little bit further. Let's go back to the games, leading up to that, so the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and so on. The qualifying, yeah. So, did you go to all of those? Were you there at all of the?
I was at the home game. At the home game, yeah. I was only 15 and an apprentice, so I only had 10 and 6 a week. So no, I didn't do the away games. But the Hibs for Malta, I was going to ask Alex about going playing there when we drew 0-0 and the first round went to the first leg. And I think we struggled at 0-0. Did we not, Alex?
Well, not so much struggle. The thing was, we won 4-0 at home in the first leg.
Yeah.
The first game. So we went there, and it was like the crowds were incredible. It was, they're all Manchester United supporters. There was no away fans. The Maltese were Manchester United supporters, and we played on a concrete pitch with sand on it. And it wasn't. We didn't have to do a lot to sort of keep it at 0-0. Really, their crowd were. Everyone was happy and going on, but we knew 0-0 was enough to satisfy them. Boom, and okay, we're into the next round.
They're fantastic, aren't they? They really support United very well, the Malta bunch. As we know,
unbelievable. Yeah.
Good lads. Sorry. So, well, do you want me to talk the '68 final? Obviously, we queued all night for our tickets, like we're talking sheets. The week before. Maybe it was 10 days before the final. I queued all night with the Ashton lot that I used to hang about with.
Right.
All night outside the ground. Got me ticket. I was an apprentice coppersmith at Range Boilers in Staler Ridge. College, Oldham College used to be built then. And I'd missed college twice already on the Wednesday, and I got told that I couldn't miss no more by Bill Jewett, the foreman, a lovely man. If you miss another one, Addy, that's it. And we got to the final. So, but I'll tell you a story about that. The day of we hitched it there, obviously. Me and two of my mates. One of them's passed away now. And it took us longer to get to Hazel Grove than it did to Wembley. Just from the bridge to Hazel Grove. It took us ages. We couldn't. Anyway, we got picked up by a lovely lady that dropped us off at Hazel Grove, and then we got a great lift all the way to Arsehole's old ground. Near there, he dropped us off, smoked a pipe, really nice guy. And we were there early hours of Wednesday morning before the game, and it was fabulous. And we got to Wembley walked a bit, then the local bus had started, we got on that. And at Wembley, we're all people wandering about at 6 o'clock in the morning there. It was just unbelievable day. Up and down Wembley Way, and I got by lunchtime. A lot more people are arriving, and the two lads I with didn't have tickets, so we were on the scrounge everywhere we went. I met lots of people that I knew that I sometimes saw in the away games. I went to the away games at United, in Division 1 then. And then I bumped into the Malta branch, as we spoke about the Malta branch before, on the steps, the big. And they gave me a drink of pop and some crisps. It was brilliant. And they made a fuss of us, me, Billy and Kenny. Got my picture took, ended up, went when I was 40, for my 40th birthday to the letter. And there it was on the wall, little scruffy kid on the end, that was me. So now the final, we got in the game. You're in the ground. We were in the ground. As soon as they opened, we were in the ground singing. And quite high up, really. I had a special big rosette that were made for me by one of the neighbours. But I've still got it. It's a bit tatty now, but still got it. My white butcher's coat on, which I wish I'd never got rid of. I wish I'd saved it. I don't know why, where it went. But then, of course, the rest is history, isn't it? It kicked off. I must admit, I've never seen so many smart people like that in my life. They all had chips to die on, and like all insurance men wandering around ground. They were just unbelievably smart. Some of United fans were as well, but I mean, they were just all dressed to kill, that lot. They really were. First half, Alex, the first half, I mean, it was tight, the first half, wasn't it? Very tight, the first half.
Well, it was always going to be tight, wasn't it? You know, I mean, you've got to remember, I mean, I wasn't at the club at the time, but a couple of years before, the you know, United murdered them, was it 5-1 in Lisbon? And you know, they played each other in that. But the thing was, it was tight, but it's never going to be an open game as you would think it was going to be. I mean, they were a great team. They were full of all internationals, as we were basically. So, you know, it was going to be tight. It's like, I mean, you don't want to make a mistake, do you? That's what it's all about. If you make a mistake, you know, you're going to, you know, you can't. I couldn't afford to make a mistake. Let's put it that way. Being the goalkeeper.
Well, you can't.
But no. But it was interesting you saying about the way you went to the game. I mean, we had so many stories about that. But we as players, we did know. I won't mention his name, but he was a judge. A friend of ours, lived near Mottram Hall actually, but he was the judge. And he was on the Moors murders case, I think. But on the day of the final, he was in court in Carlisle, and they reckon that it was the quickest assizes that ever went on. The hammer went down, guilty, 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 because he got in the car and they got him to Wembley.
Brilliant.
That's a fabulous story, that is. I love that. So, Addy, I just want to ask you, what was the feeling on the terraces, sort of pre-match? Was it confidence? Was it nervous? Was it we're just going to enjoy the occasion because it's a European Cup final? What do you recall about how the fans were feeling pre-match as the, you know, at the 1-1, we're getting close to the end? Is it nervous? What was it like on the terraces?
I was very nervous, but as a 15-year-old, what's nerves? I mean, I feel more now. I go now, like I said, I'm a season ticket holder now, and I'm more nervous now than I were then. I'm a bag of nerves at times. I'm picking team 2 days before the game, mate. I can't sleep. It's ridiculous. But we were nervous, but we were very loud, and it was just, the singing never stopped in the United. Well, they sang as well, obviously, but it was standing, obviously, so it was, you were being out, and it was an experience that Rotterdam came close to it when we won the Cup Winners' Cup at Rotterdam. That were close to that. Same sort of feeling, singing the songs and stuff. Obviously, beaten by Munich was another one, but that 68 were awesome, and there are a lot of very kind people there when you've gotten out. You know, even in the ground we were getting cups of tea given to us. You know, and a packet of crisps. You know, but we're a proper loyal and kind people. A lot of United fans, well, majority of United fans are. But after when we finished, I mean, who could forget Nobby running about like he did, bless him. What a folk, eh? Nobby a few times in my time as well. So, but I mean, when Bobby outjumped the rest, you know, the songs that we sing, wow. Well, I was on the floor. I was rolling about on the floor. I got knocked on the floor. I mean, Bestie were awesome. But we've also got to remember, I mean, Johnny Aston, I know Johnny Aston many times, because he used to have a shop in Gosford Market, and that used to see me in Stalybridge. He had a shop in Stalybridge as well. Johnny Aston played well in that final. Johnny Aston played well in a lot of the games.
Man of the match.
He was the man of the match at 68, but in the cup final, in the European Cup final. But he played well, quite well. Even in league games, he was playing well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
My dad always
he really deserved that, I don't think. You know, he run him ragged. Never mind you save, you know.
Rob, I want to ask you. Go on, Addy. No, you go. You finish.
Alex did his bit. He had one save to do, didn't it? End of story. Yeah. Oh, did he in the air? Didn't he, Alex?
Yeah, it was just one of those things. Isn't it? I mean, you say you had a free kick. I shouted bar, and it hit the bar, and it bounced out outside the box. That's how hard he could hit it.
Oh well, we probably, besides Bestie, we're probably the best player in the world at the time.
Well, he was a prolific goal scorer, wasn't he? I think if you look up his record, I don't know, he played something like 840 games. He scored 870 goals or something like that. But it's unbelievable. But you know, he had a certain person to man mark him, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I went Nobby. He kicked lumps out to Nobby as well, didn't he?
He did.
Well, yeah. But the only thing I can basically, I mean, when you're in that dressing room, I mean, Matt's team talk was always go out and enjoy yourself, and you knew he had confidence in you to go and play the game you wanted to play, you play as a team, you run the game because you're experienced enough, each and every one of you, like a jigsaw puzzle, to play the game, and when the only thing very rarely he would sort of itemize something, and as we went out, or when the bell went to go out, which at Wembley you had this, you know, the dressing rooms were right at the back of the tunnel, so there was a long walk up to before you got on the pitch. You got near the pitch, you had to wait while the bands were playing. Anyway, it didn't matter. But I just remember that as we were going out, when the bell went, he just all of a sudden said, Nobby, I want you to mark Eusebio man for man like you did 2 years ago in the semi-final of the World Cup. And that was it.
And he did it.
That was Matt's talk. That's how a manager, you know, it was something but it was just brilliant. No shouting, nothing like that. Just go and do that, son. I know you can do it, you know.
Rob, does he talk about it, Rob?
Did he what? Sorry, say that again, Paul. Be back. I'm worried my computer's going to go off. Sorry, say that again.
Did he talk about it a lot?
Yeah, he talked about marking Eusebio, and he talked about the game. Yeah, I mean, in 60, he marked him in 66, so he knew sort of what to expect, and he knew what you could and what you couldn't do with Eusebio. He said you couldn't let Eusebio get a run at you, because if he ran at you, he would kill you. You had to be on him straight away. And as Alex will testify, you couldn't he had a very short back step as well. So
right, yeah.
He was striking the ball, you had to be right on top of him. Otherwise, if he got a shot off, you were in trouble because he could whack the ball, as Alex Chest will testify. So, yeah, he did talk about, he talked about saying 66, he'd marked him, but Bobby Moore had also, Eusebio started to drop deeper, Bobby Moore would pick him up. And in 68, him and David Sadler had said if he goes deep, David Sadler would pick him up. So Nobby wasn't leaving the defence exposed, which he only did the once, which was nearly a catastrophe, except for Alex. But yeah, he did talk about. He talked about, and obviously, you know, being a mad red as he was, and being at the club for when Munich happened, and that it meant such a big deal to him. 68 as well, and you know, he was an ardent red all through his life. So yeah, he talked about it. But he was very, as Alex will say, he was very, very unassuming and very humble. You know, he wouldn't go about and say, well, I marked Eusebio and I put him in my pocket.
No, I wouldn't do that.
No, that wasn't him. That wasn't him. I mean, he might say sometimes, well, you know, I did okay. That was probably as big-headed as he ever got. I did okay, yeah. But you know, he was obviously very proud of what he did. Because he did a great. I think he did a great job on him twice.
Rob, I just wanted to ask you, what was the atmosphere like in the Stiles household in the days leading up to that? Was he nervous about it? Was it's just another game? How did he approach it, and what was it like?
I wasn't around. I didn't come till 9 months after the cup final. That probably tells you something. Funnily enough, I was talking to my mum about it. He was actually a doubt before the final. because he was starting to have problems. He'd had problems that season and the season before.
Mm.
He had a fitness test of the morning of the match, and John Fitzpatrick was on standby. So, yeah, he was. Yeah, obviously, he was nervous about being fit, and he was nervous about lasting the match. And obviously, it was such a big occasion. But he'd been there before with England, hadn't he? So he probably wasn't as nervous as he could have been.
And
yeah,
Alex,
he was very superstitious, as Alex would tell you. So yeah, he
was.
Yeah.
Alex, what was the mood like in the camp again on the lead up to the game? Was it very relaxed? Was there nerves? Was there expectation? What was it like around the camp at the time?
No. I mean, it was relaxed because that's the way we were. It was the way, like I was saying, Matt and Jimmy would want you to be. They would make sure you were relaxed. I mean, we stayed near Epsom, I think. Where the derby was run that day, and so because you can imagine, I mean, a few players that like to have a bet, and so it was all relaxed, Great. There was no sort of. I think when you're on the coach, you get used to it. I mean, it was a bit different for a European Cup final when you're coming towards the stadium. But to see the crowds and that, I think we mainly got on with it ourselves, helping each other out, not to be overawed, if that's the word, to make sure that we're ready to go and go to play. Simple as that.
Oh, it was unbelievable. As a fan that day, I don't think any team could have done us so proud. I mean, we were the first ones to win it, weren't we? In English. The thing during the game, it was non-stop. You must have. What could you hear us?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I mean, it's one of those. It's one of those stadiums really that you're quite far apart from the normal ones you play in. It played on before, but you could hear it. But it's like everything else. You have to. You're there to do the job. You're working and you're doing the job, and hopefully, you can come through it and win the game. The only thing, like as it was, I mean, the first half, like you said, there was a few hard tackles went in and things like that. Yeah, they did. And you go in the second half and blooming, when Bobby scored with a header. I mean, how often did Bobby score with a header?
Not often.
So you must think, well, your name's on it. But they were a good team. They were a very good team, and they came back and Gracia scored past me with about 10 minutes to go. You see, the thing is, today you've got clocks. There was no clocks at Wembley. There's no clocks in our day. And I knew that they scored late on, and I was more sort of kept looking at the bench to get any signal how long to go, and because when Eusebio broke through, but that was okay. I saved it, and I wanted to start a counter attack. That was how it was. So I threw it to Tony Dunn because he went wide, and that was it. But I thought. But I remember when he put through, I thought, "Where are you, Nobby?" Because he hadn't left him all the game. But I don't know whether it's true or not. But someone said, I think he might have one of his contact lenses has fallen out. And he was looking for it. But anyway, Nobby. No, it was just an incredible moment. And when we got when the final whistle went and we had to go into extra time. I mean, Wembley was an absolutely sapping turf. Not for me, but for the lads who were, up and down. And someone said, I'm shattered, or one of the players said, but Paddy was very dominant in what he said. He said, "Well, you think you are? Have a look at them over there." You know what I mean? They were beat as well. So that was I think, Mark, we can win this,
Yeah, kiddo. I mean, such a young lad. Happy birthday! It's his birthday today.
He was 19 on the day, wasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, for him to score, and then the George Best show. Oh.
Well, yeah. You see, the thing was when we went into extra time. I mean, you can imagine. I mean, and now, no one wants to make a mistake. I mean, you make a mistake, and that could be the end of it. In a normal game early on, you things do happen. But if in extra time, and I think the ball was played. Tony Dunn. I threw the ball to Tony Dunn. He did anyway. Tony didn't want it, but I could. He didn't want to make a mistake. He could have gone forward. I think he could have gone and give it to Bobby or whatever. But he passed it back to me. Well, I could pick the ball up in those days,
Oh yeah.
And the thing was, right, when we played Gornick in Gornick, we lost 1-0 right at the end, but we won 2-0 at home. The referee pulled me up for holding the ball for more than 4 seconds, and I caught the ball from a corner, and it was all icy pitch, and it was only the same bloody referee, wasn't it? So when Tony gave me the ball, I'm looking over and I see Shay, because I didn't want to, Shay was on his own, and he worked. What a character Shay was, and I threw him the ball, and he didn't want it, and he passed it back to me. Now I can't do anything. I've got 4 seconds. I've kicked it down the middle, because Brian got a flick on, and then George is full of running, and we score. He went round. Well, he nutmegged Kaluna, the captain, and went round Henrique, the keeper, and they'd gone then. That was the initial point in the game, really, in the extra time. But once we scored first, they collapsed, and we coasted then, really, didn't we? I mean, Brian scored, and then Bobby scored with an unbelievable half volley.
I think Alex, to be fair, I think United were a lot fitter than them in the extra time. We seem to be
in extra time, yeah, because we'd scored that second goal. They'd gone. I mean, I said to you before, the players were exhausted. I mean, it was nearly 100 degrees in the stadium that night. You know what I mean? And it was just that once we got that goal, they went. They just everything went out of them. Everything went out of them, and we coasted to win.
Yeah. Talking about that goal, Shay always said he set it up because he passed it back to you, Alex, didn't he?
That's right, he did.
As golden as
but you see, that was because he was a character, wasn't he? When we had characters in the team. I don't think you get characters today like we had,
I think everyone loved Shay, didn't they?
Oh, it was a diamond. Absolute diamond. Diamond, yeah.
Can I ask, Alex, what did Sir Matt and Jimmy say to you at the end of full time when you're all sat on the turf? Was there a guy, you know what you need to do, or was there?
No, I think if I remember rightly, we sort of what to do. This is what I was starting saying. Matt was brilliant. He allowed you to do. I mean, it would be just keep going, lads. Keep going. You're all right. Just keep playing. Keep attacking. You'll win the game. And because we had Johnny Hassan's dad was on the bench, and he was massaging legs, and so was Wilf, I think, if I remember rightly. So, and Jack Crompton, of course, and Ted Dawn. So, they were trying to keep us going as well. You don't have long before, Bobby had to go and toss up, and we're playing again.
Yeah.
I think one of the things Alex will probably agree was that Matt always insisted they try and keep playing and express themselves as well. They wouldn't mind if they're trying something. He wouldn't mind, Matt. Well, a lot of managers like Allardyce would say, "Oh, don't do this."
That's
Matt
right.
would encourage you to keep playing.
Well, the thing was there, Rob. I mean, go back to the semi-final in Madrid. I mean, we've gone there 1-0 up. I mean, Basti scored a great volley at home when we beat them 1-0. And going there, we're thinking if we could keep it to 0-0 at half time, because there was about 120,000, 130,000 in the stadium, and the noise was incredible there at the Bernabeu. We're thinking, well, if we can keep it to 0-0 at half time, we're there, we've got a chance, and that's how it was. But we were 3-1 down at half time, and the only goal that we got was an own goal. We hadn't played. We hadn't played at all. Like we had played all season. And of course, when we got in that dressing room, Matt was absolutely, there's no other manager in the world would have done what he did. He sat on the stool. When we went in that dressing room, we only had 10 minutes. That's all we had in those days. And you go in and he sat on the stool because he had his trilby hat on and his pipe in his mouth, and he just tutted at every one of us. As we walked in, he's tutting, shaking his head at us. Never said a word. Never said a word. And your head drops, doesn't it? You know, he never said nothing. And then just before the bell went, he got up and started laughing at each other. Everyone he laughed at us. What's going on? It's semi-final European Cup. You should be able to enjoy yourself. And
Alex, would you say by him not saying anything, he said everything he needed to say? You knew exactly what he was thinking without him actually saying what he wanted to say.
That was it, you see. But to get up and laugh at you, laugh in a way and telling you that, you know, all season you've been attacking teams and go, you haven't done that. Go out and enjoy yourself like you've done all season. And then when the bell went, I remember him saying, right, now listen, you score the next goal, you win. Okay? It's 3-2 in aggregate. You score the next goal, you win. And we went out. And David Sadler scored, about 10 minutes later, I think it was. And because then Bill Fultz scoring the goal was just
unbelievable.
You know, your name's on it, isn't it?
Fate.
You know, that's it. Bobby was captain. Bill Fultz puts us in the final. You know,
They'll never win.
You'll never get that again.
Yeah. Addy, I just want to ask you, at the end of full time in the semi-final against Madrid and United won an aggregate, did you, as a fan at that time, thinking we're going to win this? No,
yes.
No one's going to stop us. I know we're going to Wembley, so we're on relatively home patch, the home turf, you know, being in England. But was there a feeling amongst the fans of your age at that time, like, this is it, we're going to win this?
I think we're all like that, all of us. I mean, United were playing with some great flair and just in the league games as well. We were very confident. If I remember rightly, I don't think anybody said that we were going to win. I mean, all the way down and talking to the driver that dropped us off near Arsenal's ground. He was a City fan, but he rounded all the United team off. He used to watch both teams when he was younger, and he said, "You're going to win. You're going to win," and we did win. And I mean, after the game, I mean, we celebrated so long afterwards. As seen on black and white telly. Colour now, you know, you can get it in colour now. But we celebrated so long afterwards.
I think we had a what can I say? Alf Ramsey was there with the England team, and he came into the dressing room, and he said to Bobby, Nobby, and myself, right, go back to the hotel, because the following morning we were going to Germany and then on to Italy to play in the Nations Cup. And he said, when you're back, get to the hotel, meal and bed. Bobby was not so good. I mean, you can imagine how much that took out of him anyway. And Nobby and I, with the wives, decided that we'd go to Danny LaRue's club in London. So we had a night out in London.
You paid for drink, did you, Alex?
We had a fabulous night, and because we went, obviously the following morning we had to join up with the England squad. So the disappointment about the European Cup final for me was we never came back.
That's true.
With the team and missed the homecoming. Because there was nothing in Germany when we went there, and there was nothing, no Sky Sports or anything like that in those days. So by the time we came back 3 weeks later, it was all, you know, that was it.
Alex, I missed the homecoming as well because I had to go into work on the Thursday lunch. I went to clock in, my card wasn't there.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Addy, you're in trouble, lad. Bill Jewett was here. So I walked into the engineering shop where I worked, and everybody were banging on the benches with their hammers because we won't cut. And there's a young lad, 15-year-old, got all his away scarves tied together with his white butcher's coat on, with his helmet with David Hurd shot and all the old names I had on it at the time. And I'd go up the stairs, and he shut the blinds in his office, and you can hear the whole shop. Oh, So I came out and I got sacked. But I walked straight out and got another job, so it was not a big deal. Well, it was, but I got.
But it was worth it, though, Addy, right?
Yeah.
It was worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my dad didn't realise I'd been sacked for 2 months because he got me. I'm just thinking, you're all right. You're all right.
Guys, I've had some comments from some social media posts that I put out this morning for fans to comment on their experiences that night. And I just want to run through some of these. These are from Twitter. I've got some on Facebook that I'll go through in a little while. So Anna said her dad was there as a teenager. He took a bed sheet as a banner they painted the trophy onto. Chris Byrne, he had a full set of tokens after being at every home game, but he was only 13, so he couldn't go. His older brother used those tokens to get a ticket, and I went there and back on his scooter. He gave me 5 shillings as a thank you for that. Stephen Bolton was 10-year-old boy, went on the train with his parents, who were both season ticket holders. Remember it being hot and could still see George's and Kiddo's goals. The only time ever my parents allowed me to take a day off school. James Cusick says, unfortunately, I couldn't get a ticket. I was a sixth former at a school in Manchester. Met my dad off the bus from Staley Bridge in Piccadilly outside Lewis's to watch them go by on the open top bus. Rob says he was too young to go. Watched it on the little black and white TV in our house on Ayers Road, Old Trafford. Went to wash my hands and Georgie scored. Dad sent me out again, sent me to wash my hands again, and Kiddo scored. So it was all down to Rob. That's the reason he scored, because he washed his hands. Yeah. Barry Redfern says, no, unfortunately, he was only 11 at the time, watched it on TV, messed about, got a clip around the ear and kicked out. Watched some of it through the window until Dad let me back in. Mark Robson said he wasn't, but his dad was there. He remembers watching it with my mum on our little black and white TV. He said, sorry, I don't know that really answers your question, but 1958 and then 1968 are 2 years that influenced the lives of many United fans. Brian Maguire, banned from going by school. A couple of weeks previously, skipped off from school sports day to see the Sunderland game. Oldies will know significance. Banned from all sports the rest of the summer, and head said expulsion if we went to the final. Old fella wouldn't let me go. Yeah, Stretford Grammar tossers. So, one of those comments mentions 1958, and we can't talk about 68 without the, I guess, 58 in the context of where we were 10 years ago, losing 8 magnificent players in Munich, to where, to be in at the top table of European football. And Rob, I know your dad was an apprentice at United at that time.
Yeah.
In terms of the effect that it had on him and the effects in future years, I guess when you see the pictures, when you see the video of your dad dancing around holding the European Cup, I guess that was all that emotion coming out in that one moment. And you saw it with Sir Bobby when he cried as well, or it looked like he cried at the end of it, and it was. Would that be a fair thing to say that's how that felt?
The emotion, I think, say there was Bobby, Shay, Bill were all there at the time. They all knew the lads that died, and especially Bobby and Bill were big friends with them. The emotion has to be there, and I think Alex. I think there was some of the survivors were there, like Johnny Berry and that. I think, and the families of some of the lads who died were there. So yeah, it was very emotional, and it was something. I think that it wasn't really talked about, but it was always there in the background. They didn't talk about it them days like now. You'd have counsel or anything. There was none of that, but it was always there in the background, and it took not just emotionally with Sir Matt. It took a great deal out of him physically, I believe. He used to really struggle with his back and everything. So, it was all that had built up to. They should probably have won it 2 years before, but to win it 10 years to the day. And as Alex said, Bill to score the winner in the semi-final. It was fate, definitely, that they were going to do it 10 years after. And yeah, just all there. That's all emotion, especially for Bobby. Obviously, I think he was a bit overcome after the final whistle. It was just, he was very emotional anyway, Bobby, and it was just a bit too much for him. I think
the stars all aligned that night, didn't they? They all fell into place. And Alex, did that ever come up with Sir Matt and Jimmy? Was Munich ever mentioned, or as a driving motivation towards it, or it just didn't even come into the equation?
No, I got to be honest. When Matt and Jimmy came down to London to sign me in '66, and I came, I thought, well, I wonder, because I didn't know any of the players. I'd never met any of them before in my life, because I've been playing in the lower divisions. And the fact was, I'm thinking, well, I can remember that. I can remember when it happened. I just left school. I was doing a little sort of grocery round, and I knocked on his door, and this guy came out, and he was crying. I was only 15 at the time, and he was just, he was crying. I said, "Well, what's the matter?" He said, "Have you not heard about the Munich air crash?" And and that was in South London, and everybody. It hit everybody, not only in Manchester, but all around the country and all around the world, basically. All football supporters. That's what the fans were like in those days. And I wondered whether, they did talk about it, but directly, Johnny Aston picked me up. I was in digs near Railway Road and around the corner with Jimmy Ryan, actually. And Johnny Aston picked me up because we had to go to the Ship Canal. That's where they were training that day. And he took me there, and I thought, well, I wonder if, I knew directly nothing was going to ever be said about Munich, and it wasn't. The only time you heard anybody, I mean, Harry Gregg was there at the time, but Harry soon went to Stoke. But Harry was the only one, media-wise would mention it, because I mean, what he did, at the time of the crash. So it was just something in you, And when that final whistle went, when we won it, I mean, I know what I did. I went straight to, to Bobby and Bill, and we all went. Well, everyone did. We all went to them three, and it must have been inside us. It was that emotion that we wanted to do that, and then, like Rob said, we knew where they were, survivors, and like the families of those who lost the ones who were in the stadium. We held the cup up for them because it was for them. That was all what it was about. And all in that split second, that's what it was all about.
Yeah.
You just can't imagine the emotions that Matt must have felt, or sorry, Sir Matt, give me his proper title, and Jimmy Murphy must have felt, and like of Bobby's and Bill and all the families. I mean, Addy, from a fan's perspective, was that ever mentioned amongst you? Is like doing it for the boys at Munich, or was it a case of we just won the European Cup and that's it, kind of?
No, do it for the lads. I was only 5 when it happened, and I lived in Southern Rhodesia then, believe it or not. And I still can remember my mum and dad crying, and my brother asking what's wrong, and because it was BBC World Radio, we didn't have television there. It was such a sad time, and my dad actually reminded me of it. Bless him, many years ago. Yes, they did it for the lads. I mean, they might not have mentioned it, but I think they did.
It was definitely there. There.
And I think the fact that when you said, Alex, that you the first thing you did was run over to Bobby and to Bill Folks without saying much, I guess, meant that they knew exactly what that was symbolic of.
Well, I hope so. I'm sure it's never been mentioned. It was just if you look at the footage, that's what happened. It was, and I done that instinctively. It was just something I had to do, but didn't realise I was doing it. It's just one of those things. And if I remember rightly, I mean, Bobby never really publicly said anything, about it, nor did Bill until I think the 50th anniversary. If I remember rightly, I think they both spoke about their feelings to the media. Yeah.
Do you think that was closure for them? That they'd achieved what that team would have undoubtedly gone on to achieve numerous times had things been different. Do you think that winning the European Cup was that was the aim of what Sir Matt wanted? It was definitely what Man United should have been all about, feeding at the top table. But it was the end of that road. If we've done it, we've done what both boys said.
I think with Bobby, I mean, obviously winning the World Cup and and holding a record at England and etc. etc. That was his, you know, that was all he needed. That was all he needed. And for Bill, you know, I mean, Bill was, you know, a general, a hard man, and a great career, great career, playing for Manchester United and winning, you know, winning the FA Cup, I think, things like that, and the European Cup, and the league so many times that that was really, you know, I shouldn't. It's like saying it's the icing on the cake, but it was the end of you know, something that had to be done, and they had been part of it all, you know. And yeah, you're right in what you said.
I think my dad, even all through his life, would never really talk about the Munich or the disaster. He was too upset about it. So you can only imagine what it was like for Bobby and Billy.
Yeah.
He just wouldn't talk about it.
And I think when you watch the footage back as well, Rob, the little dance he did, it didn't need explaining. You kind of saw all those pent up emotions coming through for friends that he lost then, and I this is for you guys, amazing. When I was watching the final again earlier on this afternoon, and how high does Bobby rise, and how far out is he for that first goal? Good Lord, it's not like just a quick glancing header into the corner. He's like 12, 15 yards out. It was an incredible goal.
As Alex said, his second goal was an incredible goal. If you look at it, technically, how he did it, I don't know. That was Bobby, though.
Master of his trade, wasn't he?
Yeah.
There's no other words you can say. He was just master of his trade.
Yeah. I mean, say that night was roasting hot, and Bobby was all over the place all night. Manager as well, you know.
Yeah.
And those jerseys looked hard work as well. Those thick cotton jerseys.
I've got one of them, and they are hard work, believe me.
So can you imagine Addy running around Wembley Stadium in a European Cup final on 100-degree heat and putting on the performance that United just notched it up a little bit. At what point, Alex, did you think we're going to win this? Was it during that at the end of full time with the team talk when you could see the opposition were clearly dead on their feet, or was that a case of
I think to be honest, Paul, I think it was we knew it you don't get a lot of time to think about things. You know, your emotions, your adrenaline is flowing. You know, you're still in it. I mean, the sickening thing was, you know, them scoring 10 minutes from the end. And when, you know, if we'd gone another 10 minutes, we'd have won it anyway. But, you know, these things happen. And you still got to go out and play the game as you want to play. We want that first goal. And we got it. That was the main thing. We got it. And like I said before, you know, it was just that slaughtered them. They collapsed. They absolutely collapsed.
They were gone then.
They were gone. And you can imagine, you know, perhaps that could have happened to us if they'd have scored, you know. Mm-hmm. But it was one of those emotional moments in the heat as well. You know, it was just right. That goal went in. We knew we'd won. We knew it. You could see that their heads dropped. Every one of them, their heads dropped.
The noise when you know, when United went 2-1 up, was it Brian Kidd scored the second goal, didn't he? With the header into the
second goal. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. What was the noise like? I mean, that must have gone up a notch, knowing that we can do this. We're going to do this.
Yeah, we knew we'd won it, you know, and if you look at the reaction on our team, and it just shows you watch today's game and players score, they all go over to them, they in the air, they do all this and do that. I think when George scored, the only player that went to him was Paddy. Mm-hmm. Paddy ran over and put his arm around him, because the rest of us, well, not for me, but the rest of the lads were getting back to make sure that they weren't going to score again. You know, they weren't going to score. That was it. But that's how the game was in those days.
That was just typical George, though, right? Just his way through the fence, walks around the goal, he rolls it in the back of the net, and you know.
Well, he always said, I mean, George was absolutely superb, but he always, in a joke or whether it was a joke or not, he'd always wanted, because he'd done so many unbelievable things on the pitch, even in training and obviously in matches, that he always had a little chuckle when we spoke about things, and he always wanted to go around the goalkeeper and put it on, stop the ball on the line, and put it down and head it over the line. But I think he thought about it for a minute, but I better put it
in. and John Aston was man of the match that evening. What was that the feeling amongst the rest of the squad, that the right man got them, was the man of the match, or did you feel, watching that from a goalkeeping position, that there were other contenders that could have actually, that also had fantastic games, that could have taken the man of the match as well? Or did you feel it was actually, that's massively deserved?
No, it was massively deserved, but we played as a team, and like I've said, it was hard. There was a few tackles went in, but everyone was doing a job. But John, I think it was the fullback, was called Adolfo, I think. He was the one who John just kept knocking it past him and absolutely left him standing and getting crosses in and everything. And that was our outlet, to be honest. So many times during the game, get it to John, because he was going to take him on. That's sometimes in a game that's what goes on. You know, as players, that someone's having a great game here, get the ball to him, let him destroy him, and that's what he did actually.
Fantastic, Addy. I just made a ask that about when you thought United were, we're going to win this. When we got to full time at the end of 90 minutes and we went into extra time, was there a feeling on the stands as well? Is that this is our time? It's now or never. We've got to do this now.
No, if I remember rightly, I was a bit worried. They put so much energy into the before extra time. I do think I was confident enough. Yeah, I do honestly. Yeah, and I knew they'd do it. Once that second goal went in, I knew we were winning. And you could see the energy of the United players lifted.
I was going to say, watching the footage, it feels like the team relaxes a bit, but the energy levels then come up a little bit more. And
that's right. When George scored, they went down, we went up. Our energy comes up because we're going to win this.
I bet you didn't want the game to end, Alex, did you? When you were 4-1.
I did. I wanted a pint.
To see Danny LaRue.
It's just absolutely fantastic to hear, the stories of that. And I'm still getting comments coming in now about that. Paul Holmes, I was only 7, watched it on TV with Mum, looking for Dad and his mates in the crowd. Martin Green bought our tickets direct from the FA before the semi. Best seats were £4, thinking they'd be gold dust. There were 3 of us, me, my brother and his girlfriend. We had 4 tickets. Tried selling the extra ticket on Wembley Way, no chance. Think our allocation must have been near on 80,000. Liam McLaughlin makes an interesting point. Benfica almost didn't make it out the first round. It was at the game where they were held 1-1 at the Oval in Belfast by Glentoran. The Glens held them 0-0 at the Stadium of Light, but they went out on away goals. It's Louise said us kids weren't considered old enough to go to Wembley, lots of exclamation marks, and we had to watch it at home. But Mum and Dad did relent and let us stay up late so we could. What a night. Us kids were running around the house like maniacs who'd been fed a ton of sugar. Eric says 6 of us in a car. Just before half-time, Eusebio kneed Nobby in a delicate area. We were booing him off and he held up his hands to apologise. Boos then turned to applause. Home in Northwich about 7 a.m. In work at Knutsford for 8:30. Dad was an Everton fan and he had a cob on for days. Stan Ogden says he was 13 and can clearly remember meeting his dad at Wembley after the match. The look on his face was pure relief that the cup had been won and the babes could rest. It was strange, like the end of a film, that nobody was looking to the future and consequently 1974, then happened a few years later. Rest assured, says, I went with my mates. My two brothers went with their mates. My dad went and watched the Epsom Derby on the same day. Got back home for the parade. Tremendous. Just, I mean, the memories. And I think I said this before we were having a quick chat just before we went on live, is that, I don't remember what I did last week. I couldn't remember what I did 55. Who I was with, where I went, the time I went is just absolutely incredible. And I think it shows, it definitely shows the depth of feeling that game still holds a grip around United fans. And I'm sure, Addy, when you get, perhaps younger United fans coming up to you, and yourself, Alex, and you as well, Rob, and they talk about that you could just talk about it for hours and hours and hours. When you got back to the dressing room, Alex, did you have your beer? Was it milk back
champagne.
Then? Champagne. Okay, all right. Fair enough. Was anything said, or was it a buoyant, jubilant, people dancing around, or was there just with the European champions?
No, it was obviously it was just mayhem. I mean, it was fantastic. Okay. But the thing that amazed me was that my brother, I mean, he was 15 years older than me. Obviously, he's not with us anymore, but he was at the game. So, he was, 40? And somehow he got in the dressing room. He came in the dressing room. And I just couldn't believe it. I said, what are you doing here? How'd you get in here? He said, I wasn't going to miss this. I jumped over the railings. I jumped ran over the dog track, ran up to the tunnel, told the guy there, that's my brother, and I want to go and see him. And he couldn't stop me. He said, and he got in the dressing room. And the amazing part about it was Matt came over. Who's this? And I said, boss, it's me brother Eric. He's going, no problem. And that was it. And because 9 years later, 10 years later, when we won the FA Cup, if we won a trophy, it was always a do at the Midland Hotel that the club put on, and that was I got in so I could invite a couple, and I invited me brother and his wife, because they lived down at Eastbourne, on the south coast. And because he couldn't believe it, because Matt Busby came round and went straight up to him and said, Eric, how are you? And he'd never seen him before. I mean, that's incredible.
Members in here, mate.
Unbelievable.
Alex, how did you go on with Dennis? With Dennis Law? I know he was injured and everything, but how? I mean, it must have been terrible for him to
Yeah, well, Dennis. I mean, he had this cartilage problem, didn't he? That was he played against Madrid in the first leg, but that really, I think that was that was it basically, and he had to have the operation. But one of the funniest things, believed was when Bill scored. In the semi-final, because Dennis was in the dugout with Jack Crompton and etc. and the Boston Jimmy and that. Because when Bill started to go forward, everyone was shouting, "Get back, Bill!" Because get back. Because when he scored, I mean, what was Dennis's? What happens when he scored the goal? He punched the air, didn't he? But he punched the air and he punched the roof of the dugout and broke his fingers or something. But no, I mean, Dennis, it was sorry because we're in the final. He was in St Joseph Hospital in Chorlton, near Chorlton there, and he watched the game on television with a few McEwens, I believe.
I asked him, yeah.
Do you feel, had Dennis played, Alex, that it would have been wrapped up in 90 minutes?
I don't know. You can't say. I mean, Dennis was an unbelievable. I mean, listen, playing with 3 European footballers of the year, in one team and a World Cup winner as well. It was just incredible. I mean, and the three of them. I mean, George was just he scored goals left foot, right foot, headed the ball, beat 5 or 6 players. Bobby was unbelievable passer of the ball, scoring from 25 yards, 20 yards, whatever you want to call it. And Dennis was the penalty spot. 6-yard box predator, wasn't he? Anything there was in the back of the net. You couldn't wish for three players who to play in your team like them, really. I could say, yeah, we if Dennis had played, we knew he was going to win. I don't think you can at all. I mean, it was just one of those things.
I think if my dad said if Dennis had a chance that Eusebio had, Dennis would have scored. That was the big difference. Say if it the other way around, Dennis had a chance like Eusebio, it was a goal.
Yeah, you're right. Well, you see, the thing, why he gave me the chance, you see, that was the thing, because I'd never, I'd only seen Eusebio basically. We played in a friendly once, but apart from that, nothing more than that. But, every time I saw him play on television in the World Cups and playing for Portugal, what did he want to do? He wanted to burst the back of the net. Yeah. Now when you want to do that, there's only one thing you're going to do. You're going to smash it, aren't you? And when the ball was played through, I've got to be very honest, I thought, and because the Wembley turf was very sort of thick then, and I thought it was like probably a 45 ball for me, but it slowed up on the turf, which I'd come off, and I realised I was nowhere near it, and I went back and then went forward, because you can't do anything as a goalkeeper if you're going back. You've got to go forward and face it. And I realised he's going to blast it, so he gave me that chance. But someone like Dennis or Jimmy Greaves would have just slotted it nice. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But my dad said the amazing thing was that you stood up for so long, Alex. When most people go down, you stood up, and that's why you made the save, basically.
That's it. That's it. Like I just said, Rob, you learn being a keeper. If you're going back, you're not going to get anything. You've got to go forward and keep your arm face that ball, because you can react to it. Then you're going back, you're going nowhere. That gave me that chance, really, just to go back and go forward at him.
I have to say, Alex, I think you did yourself a bit of an injustice earlier on when you said, "Well, I just saved it." Any other time that could have bounced off you and gone back out, and he put it into the corner. But like you say, you didn't. You caught it, and then you got United on the go straight away.
Yeah, I held it. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, I don't suppose keepers today would have probably pushed it away or something like that. I don't know.
Exactly that. So you could have palmed it, could have hit your body, but you didn't. Yeah. You made a clean catch of it, and he did hit that. I mean, he belted that with some force. And then, like you say, you've got it up quickly out to Tony Dunn. United on the attack again. So it's I guess what I'm trying to say is that your save there was as important as George scoring his goal, and to keep that momentum, because a yard either side, maybe it's a different story, but that's not how it turned out. Again, fate.
It's a team game, though, isn't it? It's a team game. I mean, we all sort of helped each other. There was never anything that I'll leave it to you, but no, we help each other. Yeah, we had an understanding, an unbelievable understanding as a team. And that's the main thing. And like I said before, that came from Matt and Jimmy. They never pressured you. You knew that they knew you could do the job for them. And that's why then you get the respect. You see, you get the respect from all around.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some comments on Facebook as well, and I want to try and get some of the. Trish Lee was 5. Her mum and dad and brother all went to Wembley, and she was palmed off to an auntie's in Ancoats. She remembers going to bed, which must have been 90 minutes, and my cousin came running in saying Georgie had scored. Naturally, she got back up. Dave Leonard said, me and his mate Kev Murphy jumped in the water in Trafalgar Square, forgot he had a £5 in his pocket, and he put it on one of the lines to dry out on a scorching day. Bill Layton says he was at Wembley full of emotion, especially when Sir Matt went to Sir Bobby, straight to Sir Bobby. Best feeling ever. And Sue Jones says, memories. Still at school. What a team. Such emotions. Can't imagine the way Sir Matt felt, the team that he built again and those that perished. Must have been a lot of ghosts out there. It's hard to single one player out. They all played their part. My team always with a love heart. It's just one of those games that just is so, in the context of the history of Manchester United, is so important, and it kind of got the ball rolling for the way that Sir Matt and Jimmy played their foot, instructed their teams. And you've said many times, Alex, it was go and enjoy yourself, go and do what you can do, and everything will fall into place.
I mean, the thing was in training, basically it was left to Jack Compton and Johnny Aston, etc. But if during the week there would always be a sort of a practice game where you'd have like the first team defence. Don't forget, you only had 14, 15 in the squad in those days. It's not like today, and it was like right, and the first team defence will play with the reserve team forward line and some youth players. And opposite the other end, it would be the reserve team defence and youth team players with the first team forward line. And what they would do, Matt would walk on down one touch line and Jimmy would walk down the other. They wouldn't be saying a lot to the first team players. They would be helping the young players coming through and in the reserve teams and the youth team players, so that they are sort of getting ready to come up into the first team and probably make first team football. But that was the way it worked. And when you think about it logically, what a fantastic way to teach players.
In Rob, did your dad have that same viewpoint as well in the way that Sir Matt and Jimmy, trained their teams and coached their teams? Was it
basically, as Alex said, Matt didn't really say much. He didn't. My dad said he didn't have to say much.
No.
He said if you got a look off, he had such an aura, Matt. If you got a look of him off him, that was enough sometimes. And the most really he ever got was that's not the Manchester United. That's not Manchester United. Jimmy, because my dad had him when he was an apprentice, Jimmy taught him an awful lot. Jimmy's role at United can never be underestimated. Jimmy taught him, he said, how to play football, basically. Jimmy was such a great coach and such a great teacher. He didn't have to say that much. I mean, Jimmy wouldn't be above saying to my dad, make the centre forward, no, you're there in the first few minutes, Nobby. That wasn't, Jimmy wouldn't be, he wouldn't be frightened, thingy, but yeah, they didn't have to, like I say, they didn't have to say much. There was so much respect for Matt, both of them. There was so much respect for both of them. They didn't have to say much. And as we said before, they both had to go and express yourself, go and play. They didn't, never told them to, play for a draw or whatever. They always wanted to go and play and wanted to entertain. We were talking before about Johnny Aston. United always played with wingers. He always wanted wingers who'd play and stretch to play. So, they were both brilliant men. They were both a great combination. And like I said, I don't think Jimmy's role can be underestimated as well. I think if you think of that team, there was only three, Alex and Tony Dunn, that cost a fee. The rest of the ranks, so that gives testament to what Jimmy and Matt did, really. And that was also, it said a lot for the team spirit that, there was lads who'd come through the youth ranks. It was showed what a great team they were, really.
Yeah, just incredible. Absolutely. And, and to be and Rob, to be the son of a World Cup winner, a European Cup winner, that not many people can say that, but their dad won a World Cup and a European in 2 years. It really is. It's just an incredible story from, and I don't want to go on about it, from Munich to reaching the heights of 1968, and then what followed the few years afterwards. And I know, Alex, you were there for all of that as well, and 76 and 77. But it is just one of those matches. And I mentioned it earlier, when I do ask people on social media about what match would you go back if you weren't there, would you go and see? And quite often the 68 Cup final would be just to watch George play and Bobby. And like you say, his so Bobby's second goal was just, and when I watch it now and I'm thinking, how on earth did he do that? It's almost like a little flick of the instep and into the far corner. That's an incredible technique.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
And it was his right foot, and it was left foot. So,
yeah. Pace of the ball. just clipped it in.
Yeah,
It was very delicate, wasn't it? It wasn't a thunderbolt. It wasn't a typical Sir Bobby shot. It was that little, just almost like a flick of the wrist. If you're playing cricket and you want to spin the ball, it's that little flick of the wrist. It just feels like a little flick of the ankle and into the far. And to keep it down as well from such close range, the technique was just incredible. And and that team will, made history by being the first English team to win the European Cup. And no one can ever take that away from United, and Sir Matt and Jimmy set the tone of, I guess, that has been the cornerstone of every United manager, maybe one or two, throughout the years with the attacking football. It's go out and enjoy yourself, express yourself, and then it all come together. Gents, it's been an absolute honour to have you all on this evening. Thank you so much, Addy, for coming on. Enjoy your beer. Thank you, Rob. I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you very much, Alex, for taking some time out. Before we go, Alex, I've got a couple more things I want to ask you, Alex. And I asked Sammy McElroy the same question. If you could go back and relive a match or a season while at United, which one would it be?
Oh, I'll put me on the spot. I've got to say, obviously my first season. I mean, to come to the club and win, win the first division, to put us in the European Cup with a great set of lads. It was just and made welcome. That was the thing. Not knowing any of them before, and made welcome by everybody at the club, supporters. And the people within the club was just incredible, and I never thought, when I was told about the crash 8 years earlier, that I would be a Manchester United player and go on and do what I did.
Well done.
And last but not least, who, in your opinion, is the most underrated player that you had at United, you played with at United, that you felt didn't get enough credit? When I asked Sammy, he mentioned Dave McCreary. Was his pick? Who would yours be?
Well, I've got to say, one player came to in the team in the 70s when we won the FA Cup against Liverpool and stopped them winning the treble, was Jimmy Greenough. I think Jimmy Greenough was the most underrated player who never played for England, he'd been around, but he was such a tremendous. You could find him. He could hold up the ball. He'd lay it off and score goals. He was the player that we needed at the time. Simple as that, really.
Yeah. Which would sign him years before that. I wish we had.
Sorry?
I would say Alex was probably the most underrated. So they reckon they wouldn't have won the league in 67 without Alex. So they made
Thank you very much.
Absolutely amazing. When I asked Sammy the question, 74 was the season he'd go back and revisit, just because of the following and the football they played. Yes, Dave McCreary was his underrated player. But that 74 season is a future podcast, because I keep getting asked about it. And Alex, if you would be so kind to come on and talk about that one when we finally do, that'd be magnificent to hear it from you, because that seems to be the favourite season of United fans of that generation. But
it was the best thing that could have ever happened to us.
Yeah,
home and away, really brilliant. Home and away.
Yeah, but but tonight's been about the 1968 European Cup final. 55 years to the day when United lifted old big ears at Wembley in 100-degree heat. And just such a memorable time, and a real turning point, I think, for United in its history after the rebuild from 10 years earlier. Addy, thank you so much for coming on, sir. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your beer.
Thanks, Rob.
Rob, thank you very much. Take care. And Alex, I really appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you.
Hopefully see you again soon. Take care, guys. Well, this has been the United Before Fergie podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a message, like, subscribe, or do all that good stuff. If you're listening to the audio podcast, again, do the same there. And we'll see you again on a future United Before Fergie podcast. Until such time, take care of yourselves. Have a good week and good night. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.